Good morning, folks, or good afternoon if you're in the Eastern Canada or in Europe. My name's Dave Hodge. I'm president of Zimtu Capital Corp. We're the host of this meeting today, I'd just like to make a few introductions. I'd like to introduce Stefan Wagner, who writes Rockstone Research. And Stefan, maybe you could just welcome our German-speaking friends.
Yes, hello everybody. As David said, I'm from Rockstone Research, and I don't know if any Germans are here. Sind irgendwelche Deutschen heute da? Ich frage mal so in die Runde, ob einer da ist. No, I don't think any Germans are in here right now, or they are too shy to answer, but more are coming in right now. Also herzlich willkommen, falls ihr doch ein paar Deutsche hier sind, herzlich willkommen heute auch bei diesem Event. Wenn ihr irgendwelche Fragen habt, auch während der Präsentation oder während dieser Fragerunde, dann könnt ihr gerne die Fragen hier auch stellen und auch auf Deutsch, und dann werde ich die auch gerne ins Englische übersetzen. Okay, dann viel Spaß heute und let's go, Dave.
All right, then I'd like to introduce some of our other personnel. Jody Belfleur looks after our numbers, and fortunately they've been looking a little better of late. Jody, maybe you could just wave and say hi.
Hello, everybody. I am the CFO of the Zimtu Group. That includes Zimtu, Commerce, Saville, Kings Bay, Core Assets, and our newest upcoming Zambezi project.
Jody, that was secret, that Zambezi deal.
Thanks, Jody.
Anyway, it's a new undertaking by Zimtu to take a private company public, and we're in the process of doing that. Justin, in one sentence or less, can you tell us what Zambezi is?
Zambezi is a revolutionary sporting product. It's already out there in the world. Going public will enable the product to be launched on a massive scale next year in Europe and North America. There's an audience waiting for it, and I look forward to telling you all about it. Extremely exciting story. Hope to speak to you soon.
We also have online Ron McDonald, president of Zinc 8, and he'll be here to answer. We've got a few questions for Zinc 8. Of course, Chris Grove from Commerce Resources, Chris Parr from Dimension 5 with his new partner, soon to be fully in charge of Dimension 5. Ofer, maybe you could just give us a wave, and he'll talk to us about Aduro. Who else do we have on here?
That's it.
Yeah, on my college.
Chris Grove.
I did. So I'd like to introduce Scott Rose. He's with Core Assets. Scotty, maybe you could wave so people know who you are.
Welcome and thanks for attending. I'm a director of Core Assets Corp.
And Mike Hodge from Saville Resources.
I'm only in the top bar right now. Oh, there we go.
That's it.
So of course we have our digital marketing department, Michael Patience, the original, and Colton, our new upstart addition to our digital team. And we'll start off with questions that we received by email. And then we'll go to questions from the floor. Colton?
Yeah, so I'll start reading the questions and then pose them to each person. So the first questions are for Zimtu Capital. Does Zimtu employ charity financing to initiate and or maintain its equity positions in mineral exploration companies to effectively leverage its investments?
Is Sean Charlie here?
And Sean Charlin is not here, so Dave, did you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. The charity flow through opportunity is an opportunity that from time to time is taken advantage by our individual companies. It's not really applicable for Zimtu unless it was going to spend the money doing exploration work ourselves, which we do from time to time, as we did with the core assets property. We did initial work in order to make the decision to take it public ourselves rather than sell it to somebody else. But no, the charity flow through program is not something that I believe is good for Zimtu shareholders.
Okay, great. And that question was from David Leclerc. The second question comes from Martin. I own 2 certificates of Zimtu shares, one with 50,000 and a second one with 20,000. I'm an Austrian citizen and I would like to ask how I can sell these shares.
Steven?
Yeah, I mean, in Europe, it's kind of different than in Canada. We are not really used to those kinds of private placements and certificates. So a lot of banks in Europe, especially in Germany, but also in Austria, they are not really familiar with share certificates or even warrants. So the best would be that you try a few banks, and especially your current banks. And I think in Austria there's one big bank. It's called Erste Bank, and you should ask them if they can handle share certificates. I know of a few German banks who accept it. It's first the Deutsche Bank, and then there's also the Sparkasse in Germany, and also the Volksbank Raiffeisenbank. And these banks, I know that they can handle such certificates. So if you have those certificates, I would go to those banks and ask if they can handle it. And then if they can, then open up an account with them. You can also contact me, and with my email address, you can find it on Rockstone Research, and then we can discuss such matters.
Okay, great. So the last question here for Zimtu. In the portfolio of Zimtu, you have 1.3 million shares of Maple Gold. On the 31st of August, the value of that was 227,325. The quote of Maple Gold at the moment is 47 cents, so the value now is 610,530. You can make a nice profit. Do you intend to hold the position, or are you willing to sell the shares so you have enough money for new investments?
Our general policy at Zimtu with shares we own of companies that are participating with us, that are doing the right thing, meeting with some success in whatever opportunity they're pursuing, and generally speaking, we'll hold our position and look for the big upside. And certainly Maple has that opportunity with their new partner. Clearly, we are going to hold our position. And in fact, we're currently wangling to increase that size of that position. But I can't say much about it till the deal is consummated.
Okay, great. So that ends the questions for Zimtu, and that last one was from Brune Vandertruck. We have the next questions here for Commerce Resources. So first one here comes from Walter. Based on the 2 million in private placement, how long will the money last, and what will you do with this money? So So Chris, if you wanted to answer that.
Colton. Thank you, Colton, and schönen guten Tag to Walter Wimmer in Austria and anyone else from Europe joining us. The $2 million, how long will that last us? It could last us for a year, but the more important answer to the question is what work will this capital allow us to complete? And that is something very exciting in terms of our ability to now restart our pilot plant at Hazen Research in Golden, Colorado, and then to produce the rare earth element concentrate samples that so many companies have requested from us, including the Austrian and the German companies such as Treibacher, Euler Remy, BASF, ThyssenKrupp, Siemens, and then at the top of the list, honestly, is the American company Energy Fuels, as they are the first rare earth element processor in North America to actually successfully produce rare earth element concentrates. And so the $2 million that we're working on right now will allow us, as I say, to restart the pilot plant and produce these samples, with which then we are hopeful that one of these industry majors will then join us in a project level investment to finance the completion of the pre-feasibility study and the bankable feasibility study. So this is a very exciting moment for us. Thank you.
Okay, great. And the next question for Commerce comes from Nathan. He says he's been with the company for 15 plus years, and what he would like to know is if there's a chance that you could give any type of time frame as to when Commerce Resources could have a mine up and running. Are we still another 5 to 10 years from that goal?
It's a very good question. I mean, generally speaking, in terms of mineral exploration, people often say, you know, from discovery to production is 7 to 10 years. And that is relevant within what might be called a normal market. And I would say hardly could we consider the last decade a normal market. In terms of the venture exchange, 9 years ago, it was trading at 2,600 points. Today, it's 600 and change. So it's been arguably one of the most difficult decades in mineral exploration ever. Commerce Resources, by May of 2012, had economics out on both of our projects, which is so significant and fundamentally important to the development of these assets. In terms of everything right now, we're actually at a very interesting inflection point, turning point, where we are seeing more interest coming from industry, governments, and investors than we have ever before. And that includes for our Blue River tantalum and niobium project, which is arguably the largest defined resource of tantalum on planet Earth. And so I am very hopeful that we will see a much faster progress of the development of both of our assets. And so, no, I would hope that within 5 years, we are able to have both projects in production.
Great, thanks, Chris. Okay, so that ends it for Commerce questions. The next set of emailed questions in are for Zinc 8. So Ron, these ones will be for you. The first two questions I can kind of put into one here. When could Zinc 8 start production? And does the company have enough money to the moment of production, or will the shareholders' capital be diluted by a large margin?
Well, thank you for that question. So the company's trajectory to market would be late 2022, 2023. That would be with our 100 kilowatt product. So the product has been defined. We are currently working on a 40 kilowatt build out for the Surrey house, which will be delivered by end of 2020. You know, sometime in December, we'll be putting some news out on that in the next little bit. So what we are looking at, however, is the market is defining itself now that Zinc 8 has produced a product at a cost that allows the market to develop for long duration storage. So we're currently examining internally whether or not we have a revenue product that could be produced in 2021 late quarter. That would be a 2040 kilowatt, which we're already producing. We actually have the battery that's going to Surrey house in our back lot down on Ash Street in Vancouver. So we're in production. I wouldn't call it commercial production. Commercial production is scheduled for 2022, fourth quarter, first quarter 2023. We anticipate first year of operations, 40 to 80 megawatts. We always said 40 megawatts, but we're listening to the market, and we know that the market is going to be much larger than that. And that would have us between 80 and $160 million in revenue in our first year of operations. The second question is a good question. I've been thinking about this. Since the company went public, we have raised 3, 4, 5, 6.4, just under $7 million. That is not a lot of money when you're a company that is in pre-production. We have a large, very qualified staff out at Ash Street. A lot of it, I think we got 12 engineers, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, process engineers. So it is a real business. I think totally now we've got just around 30 people that are working to get these deadlines. We have contracts. We've got 2 large contracts, which we've already announced, one with New York Power Authority, one with Digital Energy supported by NYSERDA in New York. So we have project deadlines, and we're on path to meet all of those deadlines. To get to production is going to cost between $35 and $50 million. That is what it will take to get to production. The reason I say 35 to 50 is that we're negotiating with various jurisdictions who are offering us some significant incentives to locate our assembly and manufacturing in their jurisdictions. So that's the difference between 35 and 50. We think that's about $15 million. So we are going to have to raise that money, and we're looking at different ways. Some are dilutive and some are not non-dilutive. And we're in active discussions and negotiations on those things. But I think the thing to focus on is the value of the company. We're entering into a billion-dollar market. I should actually say we're entering into a trillion-dollar market. And we're the first ones entering that market for long-duration, low-cost storage. We are in discussions and negotiations with some of the largest branded companies in the world. I'm not at any liberty to say who they are, but they're some of the largest branded companies in the world. We're dealing with utilities all around the globe. We're dealing with private sector partners. So we know that we know what our product is. We know the performance. It'll take us another couple of years of development. We're building 5 batteries internally next year so we can accelerate our path to producing this product for the market. So yeah, we're going to need more money, and we're going to look after the interests of the shareholders, and we will select the best financing that we can in the interest of the shareholders.
Okay, great, thanks, Ron. There's another question that just came in from Baldy. Have there been any updates on the agreement in principles from India and Australia? Is there any details on them?
Yeah, the agreements and principles, we have established working groups with both of them, and they will take a little time to flesh out. One of the reasons is, I'll be quite honest, guys, I love Zoom calls. I love in-person meetings more. And in order to really build a relationship, a partnership with other companies, I like to eyeball them. So that slows down a bit because we can't do that today. So there's an extra layer of caution that you've got to go through. We are progressing nicely with Vijay. We're looking at their manufacturing capacity, and we have given them the specs for a number of significant parts, and they are currently putting some quotes together for us. Vijay is really important. Vijay has contracts with every state utility in India and with the national utility, and they're operating in 42 countries. Those that have heard me before, you know that my view is that we grow this company not by selling batteries, but by establishing pipelines of projects. So Vijay certainly does that. In Australia, it is the same thing. We're going forward with pricing out projects at the aquatic centers. There's over 100 of them in Australia. They're getting off of carbon emitting generation. And so our solution is a great solution there. We're also looking at the 2040 kilowatt battery market there. It's very extreme. So both are moving forward at a good pace, but we'll be cautious how we proceed with both of them.
Great, thank you. So the next set of questions here are going to be for Emerita Resources. David Gower, if you're here, could you just let us know?
Yes, I'm here, yeah.
Okay, great. So I believe you do have the questions because there is a pretty lengthy set of questions. So I'll just let you kind of take this on and just answer them as you wish.
Okay. So yeah, the first questions that you sent me were asking about the capital structure of the company. Right now, it's 84 million shares outstanding with about 18.4 million warrants and about 4.7 million options. So that's the updated capital structure. The second part of that question was related to our work plan for the next 6 months. As luck would have it, we just issued a press release this morning laying that out. So our focus is going to be on the Paimogo project, or we're calling it now the Iberian Belt West project, which is close to the Portuguese border in the Pyrite Belt. So we've laid out the program for 22 drill holes, about 5,000 meters on the Infanta deposit. That property is in permitting right now. The process requires 30 days for the reclamation, the drill hole reclamation part of the work program to be made public, and then we'll be ready to drill by Christmas, I would say, early next month at least. On that property, there are 2 deposits, and there's a zone in between them called El Cura. So Infanta is the first one. It's a very high grade. If you look at the press release, you'll get all the details there. It's in an area, there are different classifications of protection in Spain. Where Infanta occurs, there actually it's rated as having no environmental sensitivity. So the license there, even though it is presented to the Department of the Environment by the Department of Mines, will be issued by the Department of Mines directly. The other part of the property has a little bit of sensitivity related to cork oak trees. So there's a full report, EIA, social impact studies, et cetera, have already been filed, and those areas have all been drilled in the past, and we see no issues with those permits forthcoming. And then the next part of this, and the reason we're doing this, is we have a number of questions from I would say an antagonistic group, to say the least, out of Spain, related to a number of different issues. The backstory on this is as follows. We have been involved both at Paimogo and at another project called Asnocoir in very lengthy legal cases. The one at Paimogo was resolved earlier this year in our favor by the Supreme Court of Spain. And I'll talk a little bit more in detail on that. But where this, I believe these questions come from, are the group related to the other lawsuit, which is the Asnocoir project. Paimogo was really an administrative dispute, more of a claim dispute. It is resolved in our favor. The license has been awarded to us, and we are working well with the authorities to get the work program going. Asnocoir, on the other hand, was a past producer. It's the former Los Frailes deposit that was owned by Boliden. It was a very complicated public tender process. We spent over $1 million on engineering and studies on that project at the time of the tender, which was about 6 years ago now. And it went to a group that really didn't do that kind of work, and we requested a full investigation for corruption related to the awarding of that tender. Subsequently, about a half a dozen people in the government and 2 people from a competing company have been named in lawsuits. And just this week in El Mundo in Spain, this lawsuit is also coming to a head in our favor. The government of, or the court has indicated, and you can look this up in El Mundo, which is Spain's largest paper, that they no longer need to continue the investigation. They have all of the evidence that they need. They've confirmed the commission of a crime, and what's really left to do is apportion blame to the named people and penalties. So this, after 6 years, is finally coming to a head in our favor as well. And the reason I say that is the laws relating to public tenders in Spain are very clear, and it's lots of precedents for this. If there's a commission of a crime in awarding a public tender, that bid must be disqualified, and we are the only other qualified bidder. So Asnacoir is a game-changing type project. It's got 20 million tons, basically starting in the open pit, the old open pit. We'd be looking at high grade plus 10% combined lead zinc. That's already drilled off as a reserve, and we're the only qualified bidder that's left in that process. So there's a matter of time, but this is a very important step for us. To have the upper court, it's already been through 2 levels of appeal, and the upper court, with 5 judges unanimously agreeing, have ruled in our favor on that. So I'll go through the questions now specifically. The first ones relate to the Cantabria project, the zinc project in the north of Spain. This was active a couple of years ago. That project is a joint venture between Emerita and Aldesa, which is a large Spanish construction company. The question is, what happened in Cantabria? You promised tons of zinc, assured publicly it was a great business, and finally you did no drills. Well, in fact, we did drill the project. We spent with our joint venture partner in excess of 2 million euros. The targets that we were drilling were 600 to 700 meters deep. We hit at least some mineralization in all drill holes, and in fact, some of the holes would be considered ore holes, but it did not hold together well enough to be considered a robust or economic proposition at those depths. It also points out that our claims that we no longer have the mineral rights. In fact, the mining law is very clear. You are eligible to apply for an extension to your mineral rights, and that has been applied for. And that extension has not been resolved at this point. I will say, and I have said publicly, that with the awarding of the Paimogo project to Emerita, which we own 100% of, this project will be lower priority. So we're not probably likely to pursue this aggressively in the meantime. The next question is about Paimogo, the next 2. Talking about Paimogo, regional government issued administrative orders several years ago, which de facto means less than 10% of the land in Paimogo could be open for drilling. This was confirmed by the Supreme Court of Andalusia, July 24th, 2019, when MATSA tried to do the drilling. Well, MATSA could not have tried to do the drilling then because nobody owned the mineral rights. MATSA, for the information of people, is the local subsidiary of Trafigura. In fact, this is one of the most solid cases of owning the mineral rights that you can imagine. The project was put out for public tender by the Department of Mines, by the government. It is a mining project. Subsequently, it went through an appeal to the regional judge of Saville. Again, the tender process was confirmed. It was appealed again to the upper court of Andalusia, where it was again confirmed. It finally went to the Supreme Court of the Kingdom of Spain, who wrote a very lengthy ruling in our favor. And subsequently, the panel of the Department of Mines in Huelva was reconvened and awarded the project to us and are working with us on the work program. So there's actually no evidence that this project has any kind of restriction on it with respect to doing drilling and subsequent development. Again, as I said, these are a little bit confrontational. In fact, local authorities in Paimogo claim Emerita is not a company to be trusted. How are you going to push a project? What I will say goes back to what I said to begin with. This has nothing to do with authorities in Paimogo. The authorities actually are working extremely well with us, but there are people on Asnacoir who have been charged with criminal offenses as a result of that, with corruption. There has been a media campaign coming from those people that try to disparage the company. But in fact, the courts are the courts, and the law is the law, and the authorities are working well with us. Based on the the reports in El Mundo this week, that case is coming to an end. Those people are going to be charged and convicted with the crime of corruption, and this should bring an end to this saga. This next question is how many shares in Emerita are owned by Forbes and Manhattan? They expressed 65 million euros in support. Your figures are 645 million euros. Where are you going to get the rest of the money? Well, in fact, they are referring to numbers from the public tender documents that were issued more than 6 years ago. We're a public company, and companies may trade in and out. I would suggest if you want to know how many shares Forbes has still, contact them. And then the numbers are what they are. We as I said, we spent around $1 million putting together a full detailed engineering study for this project. It was almost 10,000 pages of documentation when it was finished. We held public hearings. We had approval from the Federal Water Authority, etc. Those numbers will have to be revised after 6 years, almost certainly. But this is a project that was in production for about 1.5 years. The resource is not it was drilled off as a reserve. There will be more drilling required, which is in our work plan. And we are probably almost certainly the ones best positioned to move this project ahead quickly because we've done so much work on it already. And as it turns out, the courts and a full police investigation have supported our position on this project. The last question is about tomorrow. It says, who bought your shares at 5 cents? We did a financing 4 months ago before we were awarded the Paimogo project. That project was awarded before that financing closed, and it filled up very quickly. The shareholders were essentially all retail shareholders at that time. The 4-month hold comes off tomorrow. What I would say is with the news coming from Asno-Coyer and the fact that we will be drilling very high grades at Paimogo later this year, hopefully that's enough to hold people in. At this price, we're undervalued, but the share prices certainly come off in anticipation of that 4-month hold stock starting to trade. So that's the end of those questions. I hope I've answered them adequately.
That's great. Thank you, David. So at this point, I think we do have more questions emailed in for more of our companies. I do want to open up the floor a little bit to anybody who has any questions live right now. If you have any questions for any of the companies here, you can unmute yourself and just tell us who you are and what your questions are.
Since our initial introductions, we've had a couple of the companies join a little later. One would be James Walker from Aries. So he is here if you have questions for him, although there are some emailed in questions for him. And I think Pat Power as well came a few minutes late, so missed his grand introduction. Yes, thanks for the smile, Pat. And now, Colton, unless there's somebody I missed, maybe you could go on with the emailed questions.
Yeah, so I'll go on. So the next question here we have would be for Dimension 5 and Aduro. Ofer, this will probably be best for you. Assuming you have a smaller prototype of the hydrolytic system, how can you be confident that this system will scale to the size that is needed on a large vessel and maintain the same efficiency?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, good evening in Europe. Good morning in Vancouver, and thank you very much for having me. Actually, I'm quite excited. It is an important question. It's better than any activity that relate to technology development, and I recognize that there is a risk. I guess it's part of the fun and the requirement. You go and ask for money because you have some embedded risk on one hand, and the beauty is that if you can mitigate it, it's moving on and you get to kind of enjoy the fruit of it. As for the question itself, the author select to kind of focus perhaps a little bit on the reactor design, and may just put a little bit backwards the chemical reaction that we're doing in the past. So I'll try to answer it in two stages. There is a item related to the chemistry that we're doing, and then there is the reactor design. That's I don't know if the author wanted to kind of focus on both, but I think the proper answer will be on both. So let's start with the chemical reaction. So we've been working and monitoring the work in the lab for several years. We built over the years quite a good handle, grip on the models of what we're doing. And I can say that the chemistry that we're seeing in the lab, for simplicity of discussion, none of them is consuming a lot of energy or either releasing a lot of energy. That means say that they are more or less easier to handle. Saying all that, if we were to see maybe red lights there, we would deal with that prior to building any reactors. So now, once we got a good grip and handle on what's going on in the reactor, in terms of the chemistry, we moved on into the reactor design. And that's kind of the subject of these questions. And in terms of reactor design, it's actually, we feel it's actually the easier part. You see, what we're doing in terms of the design is more of a regular engineering practice. There's nothing fancy in the reactor design. A lot of the knowledge comes back to the chemical models that we are building up. Saying all that, it is embedded with some risk, as I mentioned. And for that reason, what in the deal as a showroom and then stage 2 as a higher model, professionally, internally in the company, we call it reactor 1, reactor 2, and reactor 3, where R1 is actually the sets of reactor we've been playing in the lab for many, many years. And R2 is the showroom, is just a reactor that is, more or less of a continuous flow that is doing everything we are asking to, but we don't scale it monstrously, knowing that we have issues, embedded in it and trying to solve it later. Where R3, which is the pilot, it's 20x, 30x of the current reactor system. So you see, our path is to grow with reactor size while mitigating the risk. So we try to, based on the information that we have, we're trying to assess how much money do we need, we're willing to risk in order to provide the proper, I'll say, reactor fit. So far, we haven't seen any red lights, and we think what we see so far and we assess it is more related to optimization rather than new chemistry that we haven't detected. And because of the information I provided before about the chemical structure that we are aware of inside, and about the fact that we're more or less using a general practice of reactor design, nothing fancy here, we feel we could accomplish it in a fairly lower risk.
Great, thank you so much. So we do have another question here from Zakako in German. So I'll ask this to you, Chris Parr, and Stefan, if you could take note, and once Chris is done, just talk about it in German, so he doesn't need to translate it. So the question is, when will the name change to Aduro be completed, or when will trading in the new shares begin? And when do you expect the first income?
Hello, everybody. So what I can say, we don't know exactly when that date will be, but we're on the cusp of completing the audit and listing statement. So that gets sent to the exchange, and then we wait for the conditional approval from the exchange. So It really depends on how busy the exchange is and how quickly they come back and what types of things they come back with on their review. So it's, I mean, it's hard to give any estimations, but, think of a range between, at the earliest mid-December to, sometime in January. We'll have to just wait and see.
Helmut, danke für deine Frage, und der Chris hat im Wesentlichen jetzt gerade gesagt, dass der Vertrag zwischen Aduro und Dimension 5 wurde unterzeichnet. Das heißt, es ist kein LOI mehr, sondern das ist wirklich ein definitiver Vertrag, und das ist genau das, was die Börse eigentlich sehen will. Und die haben diesen definitiven Vertrag jetzt zur Börse hingeschickt, und jetzt liegt es eben an der Börse, das zu durchsehen, also zu prüfen, diesen Vertrag. Und sobald die Börse das genehmigt hat und geprüft hat, wird die Aktie wieder für den Handel zugelassen. Der Chris denkt, dass es, ja, je nachdem wie die Börse zu tun hat, kann es dann schon auch noch bis Dezember bzw. bis Januar dauern.
Okay, great. And Kako says thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the next company here. We do have some questions for Saville Resources, so Mike Hodge will be here to answer those. First one here, do you have any back of the envelope calculations of how much resource of fluorspar your project has? He says, of course, he understands it's not compliant, but very approximate.
Your chance to go to jail, Mike.
Yes, thank you for this question on trying to get me in trouble. What I can say about the fluorspar that we have is that it is a kicker for the company. So we will be looking for economics on the niobium and the tantalum, which are held within the pyrochlor, and the fluorspar that comes along with it is a great kicker. I can't go over the back of the envelope calculations, but happy to answer other questions on fluorspar.
Okay, we do have another question there. What are the milestones planned for the next 2 years, and approximately how much would it cost?
Well, for the next 2 years, we are looking to complete a financing. We're in talks with a few flow-through funds and a few groups that are looking to put hard dollars in. What that will get us is our next drill program. And depending on what kind of dollars I can bring in is what the next drill program is going to look like. There's a few targets that I would like to hit. So where we drilled in 2019 at the Mallard, I believe without a whole lot of drilling, we'll be able to get an inferred resource, which would then bring companies, some major players in the niobium space to the table again. I have sat down with a group of people from CBMM. They would like us to go there. What's really getting me excited is the possibility for the Marana. So we've got a boulder train that stops on a mag high, which is where I believe some of our extremely high grab samples are coming from. And that target's never been drill tested. So ideally, I would like to go in and do some drilling in both spots. We're very excited to get that underway.
Okay, great, thank you. So next couple questions here will be for Aries. So for you, James. So first one here, what are the prices per ton for fluorspar and acid spar? I understand they're quite close together now. Can you confirm that?
So say that question again, sorry.
Sorry, what are the prices per ton for fluorspar and acid spar?
So the prices per ton, you're looking at about $330 a ton for met spar, which is what we were selling just before we shut down for expansion. It'd be in the same sort of region again, $330 a ton. The acid spar, because we don't incur the penalties that other groups will incur, you're looking at about $520 a ton there for the acid spar. But I mean, for our project, it doesn't make sense to do much else other than the acid spar, just because we would still need to float to get up to a high grade met spar, 90%. So we might as well just keep floating it and make the acid spar and make the $200 markup on the product.
Again, then follow up on that question. What are the all-in costs for the Florist bar and acid spar?
So the all-in costs, well, you're looking at about plant for 3 million. You're looking at a crushing circuit. So say the whole plant, primary, secondary, float circuit, 4 mil, bagger, all of that combined, you're looking at about 6 million US. And operational costs surrounding that related to infrastructure, warehouse building, concreting, mine works. You're looking at about another 3 to 4 million. So I'd say in total, you're looking at about sort of 8 to 10 million total.
And would you be able to put that in a cost per ton for Florist bar and acid?
Oh, well, in terms of producing, it's come down to about 120, I think it's $124 a ton production for a ton of acid spar operational costs. So, and yeah, if you think you're selling it for 520, and you're looking at close to about $400 a ton margin.
That was all in US dollars, correct?
That was all US dollars, yeah.
That's basically highway robbery, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay, we do have one more question here. With the currently changing mine plan for a larger production scenario, when do you expect to start production?
I would expect to be in production of May this year. And like, it would actually be sooner, but because we had quite a successful drill program, so we upscaled a lot of the plans from say 250 ton a day operation to 500 ton a day operation. We went for a different plant design, so the lead time on the ordering, construction, delivery, and commissioning of that is about 5 months by itself. And so that order goes in next month, and then that should arrive on site late, early April, and then that should be commissioned by about May time to start producing. But during that that lead time, all the other mine works, construction, infrastructure, equipment delivery, that can all be done at the same time. So May next year.
Perfect, thank you. So that's the end of that for Aries. The next company would be for Core Assets. So Scott Rose, first question, could you tell me the current share structure and the cash in bank?
So yeah, thank you. Currently, there's 21,216,000 shares issued with no warrants and no options, and we approximately 250 in the bank.
Okay, and then what are the exploration plans for the next 6 months?
Currently, we're talking about doing an airborne survey, and we've submitted for some more drilling permits. And we're going to do the airborne and plan to drill it in the first of next year.
Perfect. Okay, so there's just 2 quick questions for you there. Moving on, we have Pat Power from Lake Winn Resources. Pat, the question here is, I see it's a newly created company. Do you have any problems with permitting?
Yeah, we're a new rollback company, so we're not a new company per se. But on Thursday of last week, we just received our drill, trench, and sampling permits from the government of Manitoba. So they're in place.
Perfect. And then I'll ask you this question too. This is for Arctic Star. When do you think the excitement will return to the junior diamond exploration market?
When we drill Diagra. Diagra's exploration project on the planet for diamonds. It's recognized by all the people who know anything about diamonds in the world as the project. Finland is exciting as well. But it's, we've been hitting smaller pipes there. We have to kind of find a little bit more tonnage to make that work, although the diamond numbers are great. So, but my thing in this company right now is we're going to drill Diagra. That'll be March, April, May, June. That's our 4 months of getting into the Lac Gras area. And last year that was taken away by COVID. We were banned from having a camp. In fact, we couldn't even fly up to Yellowknife to even get close to it. So hopefully things are in order this time, but that'll spark it up because it's right beside the mines. The mines are really in deep need for more production. They're going to be shutting down in a few years if they don't get any more pipes that they discover. So I think we have a deal there, and we're not really planning to do anything ourselves other than bring it through feasibility. I'm highly confident we're going to hit a lot of pipes. And the real premise behind this is Buddy Doyle's premise of what we're going to be hitting is non-magnetic pipes, and magnetism hurts diamonds. It makes them resorb. It's a heat process. So there's a real possibility we get a really exciting result here, and it's right in the corridor of hope, right beside both mines. It's really exciting, but it's been a tough last couple of years in the diamond world, but we're trying to break out very shortly.
Okay, great, thanks. And we do have a question here from Dennis in the chat, and Stefan will need your help with this one as well. But Dave, this is probably good for you. Is Zimtu planning a promotion worldwide or in Germany? The share has to become more popular and German investors will buy.
So currently, Zimtu is in the planning stage of changing its marketing program that used to be heavily reliant on trade shows, from the Munich show to the PDAC, the Cambridge shows, all those in-person shows, which are no longer happening. And that's why we're having this Zoom call today, and we've had lots of other Zoom calls. We're kind of converting our marketing program to be more reliant on digital marketing. That's why we hired Colton, the person that's been asking the questions. And of course, we will continue to rely on Rockstone Research, an important part of what Zimtu does. And certainly if you're not subscribed to Rockstone, you should do that because Stefan will write on most of the Zimtu companies, most of the companies that you see here today. And he can sometimes give a slightly different point of view as he speaks for Zimtu, not for the company. Anyway, that's essentially what we're doing, and we will be stepping up these digital marketing programs, and you should see a result of that over the next month or so.
And to add to that, I will let you know, if you go to our website, we do have a blog post starting every week. We have a blog post as well as a weekly newsletter that goes out and kind of summarizes everything that's been going on in the Zimtu family. So if you do want to keep updated, you can go to our website. It's brand new and it looks great. So Dave, I'll hand it over to you. If there's any other live questions though, that's the end of the emailed questions.
Were you going to get Stefan to repeat what I just said?
Oh yeah, Stefan, if you could do that, please.
Well, I think Dennis is good in English, or well, Dennis, der David hat jetzt im Grunde genommen gesagt, dass Zimtu hat jetzt sein ganzes Businessmodell, das ganze Geschäftsmodell ein bisschen verändert in letzter Zeit. Wir gehen mehr auf digitales Marketing. Das beinhaltet jetzt Zimtu auch selber. Also Zimtu wird jetzt auch selber mehr in der Öffentlichkeit stehen mit diesen digitalen Marketingprogrammen, die wir jetzt auffahren. Und das sollte natürlich dann auch die Zimtu-Aktie helfen, auch jetzt auf höheres Niveau zu kommen. Das haben wir jetzt zum Beispiel auch in den letzten Tagen und Wochen gesehen, dass eben die Zimtu-Aktie wirklich gut auch gelaufen ist, weil man eben auch sehen kann, dass Zimtu jetzt viel mehr aktiver ist. Wir haben den Colton, das ist ein neuer Mitarbeiter, das ist ein digitaler Marketing-Spezialist, und mit ihm haben wir eine ganz neue Webseite aufgemacht, und im Online-Bereich sind wir jetzt wirklich auf dem Vormarsch und da sehen wir halt jetzt auch schon die ersten Resultate und ich denke, das war erst der Anfang, denn Zimtu hat wirklich eine sehr enge Aktienstruktur mit sehr wenigen Aktien draußen und da sieht man jetzt in den letzten Wochen da nur ein paar tausend Aktien gehandelt worden oder ein paar hunderttausend Aktien und die Aktie ist wirklich stark angestiegen. Also ich denke, sollten auch vor allem jetzt die Portfolioanteile oder die ganzen Portfoliogesellschaften von der Zimtu auch wirklich gut performen in der nächsten Zeit, dann denke ich, das wird auch Zimtu zugutekommen.
Okay, and also just want to point out Michael Adams just saying a quick hi to everybody because it's good to see all of you on Zoom if you haven't seen the chat there.
Just a little commercial for Michael Adams. He's one of the German IR people that we here at Zimtu have known for a long time. Lots of companies use Michael Adams to get their message out in Germany. We certainly are very supportive of his efforts. Thanks for coming, Michael.
That's it.
Any other questions? On behalf of all of the companies and on behalf of Zimtu Capital Corp and our in-house resident dog, who fortunately has been good today and hasn't barked during this call. Somebody just emailed another question here.
Yeah, I can read that for you there.
Fine.
This will be for you, Dave. A last question to all the companies. Zimtu has a stake in all these companies, so Zimtu has confidence in these companies. Would it be fair and loyal if the management team of the companies presented here would also invest in Zimtu, or do they not have trust?
Great idea, great
We
idea.
do.
Okay, James Walker and Pat Power, step up. Oh, and Ron McDonald, step up to the plate and buy my stock.
You can get it at 20 cents right now.
Anyway, good to see you all. Thank you very much.